Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the part 2 of the Q&A soliloquy. I don't know what number we're on. I think it's like 11. We're on soliloquy 11, but this is the part 2 version of it. I got so many questions, but what was dope was I got a bunch of football questions, and we did that video last, so y'all can go check that one out. But we got a bunch of non-football ass questions, and I appreciate non-football ass questions. And I was a podcaster at first, like when I was doing my little journeys. I was podcaster first. It's just that YouTube was hot as fish grease, and YouTube was paying a little better than podcast was at the time. Like I tell Coach Evans all the time, I tell Lieutenant Dan, my other YouTube cohorts, whoever I'm talking to, right? I could be talking about, future YouTubers, aspiring YouTubers. I'm going to always say, when the grease is hot, drop the fish. And when I was podcasting, that podcast grease wasn't hot. But the YouTube grease was at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So we dropped the fish into YouTube grease. But I will go back to podcasting one day. Actually, one day really soon, because we're getting ready to do that rollout. So it's the Voch's Voice podcast. I got some episodes up already. It's just that I've got to figure out the timing, and I've got to figure out how to do my podcast but not take away from my YouTube. Hey, we're going to answer your non-football questions, so let me quit rambling and running for the cardio. Let's do it. Nova Legion says gaming channel win. I would like to get that going. It's not that high in my priority though, because I'm not a gamer, and I don't want my big audience to come from gaming. I want my audience to be here because of who I am. But a portion of my people will watch me game because I game sometimes or whatever. I am a gamer, but I'm not one of these guys like, hey, I'm a super Call of Duty shooter. Come watch me. I suck at first person shooters. You know what I mean? But like if I'm playing Skyrim modded now because I got a PC, you know what I mean? Then y'all can just tune into me playing Skyrim because y'all rocks with my personality, not because I'm necessarily trying to make Skyrim content. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, there will be a gaming channel at some point, but it won't be as big as my second channel, as my blogging stuff. It won't be as big as my podcast, and it definitely won't be as big as football. Unless I quit football altogether, gaming is at the bottom of my totem pole necessarily. But there will be a gaming channel at some point. Stay tuned. K Reeves says, how you get the name Voch? I don't know, player. I was a baby when it happened. Captain gave it to me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really know. I don't really know what it means. A lot of people ask me what it means. I just think it's a product of a ghetto household. I don't know. I don't think, because my actual name is Kevachi, right? I'll put it on screen somewhere if I feel like it. I don't know. But I've been Vachi. I've been Kev for a long time or whatever. But I don't know what the name means. I don't know where the hell it come from. But I just took Voch, which is a portion of my real name. And there are no black Lombardis. My last name ain't Lombardi. When you young and like there's somebody famous, so you take a piece of their name or whatever, like Voch a Flock of Flame, you know what I'm saying, or some mess like that. Or you like LeBron, so you take a piece of LeBron's name and incorporate it into yours or whatever. That's kind of what I was doing with Vince Lombardi or whatever. Vince Lombardi, Voch Lombardi. I was coaching at the time when I thought of it, and Voch Lombardi was pretty snazzy. I was it was like spring game or something, and I was coaching my spring game kids or whatever, and I was like, hey man, y'all might as well call me Voch Lombardi, boom boom boom, and it kind of stuck, and that's my YouTube name, Voch Lombardi. Shouts out to the Holmes Rick, man. Rick, he was actually the first person that donated me headphones because my last set of headphones were trash. So he's been supporting me for a good little while, and I'm grateful for him. He says, other than football videos, what's your favorite thing to create? Create, like make some stuff. I'm getting into woodwork because I think that's interesting. That's creating something. I like creating, I'm cool with my words or expression or like communicating or whatever. So I like to talk about shit that ain't got nothing to do with football. I love to create that. So just talking about current events and explaining things or just laughing at some shit that's going on, I love to do that. That's creating in my mind. And I kind of had these sectioned off together, so let's just kind of get into this. Twitter Brandon was like, if it's not too late, what got you into guns? So and I know this is kind of a touchy topic with a lot of people because a lot of people don't like guns, but I think everybody kind of got the right to do what they want to do anyway. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't want them, I'm not pushing anybody to get them, you know, but if you have them, I'm not going to shun or admonish you for having them neither. But here's a story for you. I've always kind of been into them because I grew up in the country. Like I'm from Mississippi. I grew up in the country. So like that's always been a part of my life. But what made me super gun guy? Here in Houston, we had Hurricane Harvey hit like right when I was moving into this apartment, actually. The day I moved in, Hurricane Harvey happened, and I wasn't super gun guy then. I was just casual guns are cool guy, but I wasn't super gun guy at this time. So I had my family come down and they just kind of helped me move my furnitures and all that. And my mom and my grandmother was here. So, and my uncle and my cousin or whatever. So my uncle and my cousin left because they was like, I'm about to hit the road and beat this storm. But my mother and my grandmother stayed because they was just like, I'm just going to leave in the morning. I'm just going to leave in the morning. Mom and grandma learned a very valuable lesson that day. So they didn't leave. They kind of got stuck in Houston. They live in Mississippi. So they got stuck in Houston because everything flooded and couldn't anything come or go. So they were just kind of in my crib for like a week and a half or so, however long Harvey was. So what I learned was me being the man of the house at the time, because I don't have a wife or kids or anything. What I learned was me being a man of the house at the time, having to keep moms and grandma safe. I always believed in these hands. You know what I mean? I've always just kind of believed in these hands that if anything happens, it just kind of happens or whatever. But we needed food. We was running low on food. So there's this grocery store around the block called Fiesta. It's a Texas thing, I believe. I don't know if y'all not in Texas or whatever, but it's like just a cheap little grocery store. So the only place to get food within this handful of blocks or whatever, which is like, I guess like a handful of miles, like 6, 7, 8, I don't know, 9, 10 miles or whatever, was this one Fiesta, this one grocery store. So we went early. We got up early and we went to the grocery store, and they was kind of letting a handful of people in, like at a time, and you know we was early. And it was like 7 people in at a time, right? So we was going in there making our little groceries or whatever. And I don't think my mom and my grandmother understood what it was like when people think they're not going to have food and they don't have food, and they're at this grocery store to get food, and they only letting 7 people in at a time. Everybody else just kind of lined up outside. One security guard, I don't even know if he got a gun or not. You better back it up. One security guard just outside. I don't know if he got a gun or whatever, but he just outside, just him, one guard trying to contain 100 or so people lined up outside, only letting in 7, and we inside. We're probably looking like food to them, right? And I just felt this feeling of vulnerability, right? I was empty and I was just kind of by myself. You know what I mean? It was me, my mother, my grandmother. Nobody was going to keep us safe but me. And we just kind of had food in our hand, and we heard the people say, hey man, like, we only gonna let in like another handful of people for like 10 more minutes, then we shutting the grocery store down. And we are in the line with food, and you can see the civil unrest kind of happen. So in my mind, what happened was I was in a situation where I was like, you know, what if something popped off? What if something happened? You know what I mean? What if somebody tried to rob my mother and my grandmother of their food? And I have a real I be damn expression on my face. You know what I mean? Am I just going to scrap 100 people? You going to fight 100 people like that? You know what I'm saying? And then we get back to the crib and the lights go off. The damn power goes out because we're in the middle of a damn hurricane, right? The power goes out, and it's dark, and I'm just left to kind of defend my family, vulnerable, right? So in my mind, I'm like, I need a better way to protect myself, because one day I'm gonna have a wife that I get pregnant and a bunch of, you know, little children that run around that depend on me. So I got into guns and knives and tomahawks. Archery's coming real soon. I got into all those things to be well prepared, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know when civil unrest is going to happen, and you never know when civil unrest is going to lead to some bigger shit. And the most, I mean, and that's the most basic form of it. You know, you just never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to try to break in your crib, or who's going to try to harm your people. You just never know. You just never know. And there was a follow-up question by my man Chief Red Ford. What did he say? He said, "What's the longest shot you've ever taken with your AR?" So with my AR, I only would shoot up to 100 yards, and that was when I was zeroing it in or whatever. So 100 yards would probably be the longest shot that I've taken with my AR. One day I may show the components of it. One day, if that ends up being a thing, that'll definitely be for the other channel. So, but yeah, if I'm taking a shot with my AR, it'll be within 100 yards, so 80-yard shots, 50 close range shots if I want to, because that's how mine is set up or whatever. But if I was to be hunting and to want to take a longer shot, then I would switch weapons. I wouldn't use my my 5.56 rifle for a shot longer than 100 yards. I would use something different. Anime Dog Fan, great question. If YouTube never worked out, what would you be trying to do for a career right now? I'll tell you what, man. Great question, by the way. I'd be coaching. I would flat out be coaching. And the only reason I'm not coaching right now is because I don't necessarily want to go to school to teach and deal with kids in that way. Like, if I could just show up and coach a football team and make a living, then I'd be fine with that. I just didn't want to go through the school process again. But if YouTube didn't work, and because I was working at a hospital before this, so I might be working at a hospital or something. I may be, doing psych work at the hospital I was working at. What I would say is, if it was ever a situation where I just needed to have football back in my life at some point, like I can scratch my coaching itch. I can use YouTube as an outlet. I can use it as an outlet for my coaching. So when I'm explaining things to y'all, when I'm breaking down film, I'm giving analysts, that's me in coach mode, right? So if it's a situation where I couldn't do that and I just had to get coaching off my chest, then I would just be a big boy and comply and just get through school. Whatever I got to do, I would just get through school. And I have enough connections to where I can just go back and I can just coach places, When I first met Brett Favre, when he was coaching in Oak Grove in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, I was cool with Coach Tony Myers. He was the one that kind of got me into Oak Grove for a little bit. I didn't coach there for a very, very, very long time. I was just around for just a handful of weeks, and I didn't like how their offensive linemen were zone step. Not my business, that's theirs. But I met Coach Myers. This chick I was dating was cool with a librarian friend that was fine as hell, and she kind of introduced me to him. You know what I mean? If I wanted to go coach in Florida, I'm sure I can call Coach Evans, be like, "Hey, Coach, I just want to whatever. You got something for me?" I can call Coach Reed. I can call Coach Woodard in Mississippi. I got options. I can go coach in Texas somewhere if I want to. I got a couple questions from Brian Glaze, and I thought all these were interesting. He was like, if you could work for any coach, who would it be? That's an easy question. It'll be like Nick Saban or something. I love Nick Saban. Where's your family from? Answer that. They from Mississippi. But these next few questions are like very interesting, right? Well, he was like, what's your top 5 anime? Because it's interesting that I'm going to give y'all anime, hip hop, and gun talk like in one video. I wear a lot of hats, you know what I'm saying? My top 5 anime, Detective Conan is definitely number 1. Like, I still watch Detective Conan. Yeah, and that's one of them low-key joints, man. That's one of them low-key joints. It's like you take your favorite crime forensic show and you put it in cartoon mode, and, you solve real-life mysteries. And I actually read some Sherlock Holmes books because of this show. Conan is definitely number 1. I would say Dragon Ball as a whole. I still kind of watch Dragon Ball too, and I got a different kind of place in my heart. It's just that if we talking about as a show, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are probably better than Detective Conan as shows. It's just that when GT and Super gets involved, I think it brings down the series as a whole, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And then Dragon Ball Z, to be honest, I think Z should have ended at the Cell Saga. The Majin Buu saga was cool, or the Buu saga in general was cool, but it wasn't like the Cell saga, right? This what Dragon Ball used to have before it got a little whack to me. and I still watch it, so it's not super whack. I just think it's kind of whack. Dragon Ball was fire because it used to have real stakes. You know what I mean? Like nowadays, I feel like there's nothing at stake. I think now it's just predicated around like, hey man, we just gonna fight and have good fights, and that's what it's gonna be about. At no point did I feel like Universe 7 was in real danger. But when you watch the Android saga and Goku got diabetes, those are real stakes. You know what I'm saying? The Trunks movie was my favorite movie in Dragon Ball fandom, because those were everybody died. Everybody died. You know what I mean? It just felt real. Cell going around the city, stabbing people in the chest and extracting from them and all that. Like the androids was just like, you couldn't beat the androids. The androids were just stronger than you. You know what I mean? And it gave a real reason how we got strong enough to beat the androids. All right, cool. We'll just use the room of spirit and time, hyperbolic time chamber, to get strong enough to train and beat the androids. But if we didn't have that, what the hell was we gonna do? You know what I'm saying? It's not like a situation where we're just gonna create a transformation to be strong enough to fight Jiren, or we're just gonna create a transformation to be strong enough to fight Super Buu, or we're gonna fuse together and fight Super Buu. That shit didn't exist when Frieza was out here being a racist. When Frieza blew the planet up, and you had the longest 8 minutes in anime history to try to get a fight off the ground. Dragon Ball had real life stakes, man. That's why I liked it more. I liked it more prior to the Buu saga. And then like all the other series that I kind of like, you know, you can kind of bunch them up in series. So all the Lupin stuff will be top for me. All the Gundam stuff will be top for me. The Tenchi stuff, all that's top tier stuff, man. I think One Punch is on his way. I think My Hero is on his way. You know what I mean? I never been Naruto guy. Never been Bleach guy. Yu Yu Hakusho is probably up there. And that ended way too soon. You know what I mean? So the anime conversation gets a little deep for me too, because I've been watching anime for years, man. And then the hip hop conversation, right? All time and of this era. You know, it's interesting, man, because when I've gone through a lot of changes as a hip hop fan. You know, when you kind of grow up in the South, you don't like Jay-Z as much. You know what I mean? Because that's just not what you used to. It's just not what you grew up around. You know, we're in the South. We will more so listen to 8Ball and MJG and all those guys than we'll listen to Wu-Tang or something. You know what I mean? And that's just facts. That's just what it is. You know, I had to get older to appreciate, you know, New York music or whatever. But no matter how old I get, I still have a place in my heart for these particular guys. You know, that's just you know where I got them at. And my favorite artist of all, Tupac, man. Pac is different. And if I had to give a close second to somebody, it'll be like Scarface. But Tupac was so different. Like, there's a lot of things that go into being a great rapper. And I know he's often compared with, you know, Big or whatever, Notorious B.I.G., right? But I think if you look at like the top guys, they all have different traits. Like I don't think anybody raps rhythmically better than like Rakim. Like if you listen to Rakim rapping, it sounds like a saxophone is playing, and he'll talk about that. He'll talk about how jazz influenced his rap style. You know, interesting. You know, if you look at how to say things, I think Biggie was a great rapper at saying things. Every cutie with a booty bought a coochie. Like, that's not a great line, but it sounds great. You know what I'm saying? It's not technically, you know? Nas is probably like the better lyricist amongst those guys, right? Hov is like a package that's just more so complete. But in terms of Tupac and what he does, Tupac may not, and I don't even want to say that, bro, because I think a lot of people misunderstand lyricism. I think what a lot of people think of lyricism, they simply think wordplay. I think lyricism is any way you can say something that's not typical. You know what I mean? So if it evokes an emotion in you, and it's and like you could easily say I'm sad. I'm not having a great day. I live in the hood. You could say that. But Tupac would have a line that'll be like, it's kind of be hard to be positive when people shooting at your crib. You know what I mean? That'll be his line. A very short, simple line, but it evokes something in you, right? I've never listened to Biggie and he put a big weight of emotion in me. Biggie's never put me in a different place that I've been. Like if I'm listening to Big, wherever I'm at, I just listen to him. And Big has some hot lines and I go, But when Tupac says something, when he say, you gotta operate the easy way. I made a G today, but you made it in a sleazy way. Selling crack to the kids, I gotta get paid, but hey, that's the way it is. Nothing super technical about that. Nothing super technical about it. But that storytelling, those simple lines. Hey man, why y'all here selling crack to kids? I gotta get paid. And it's not like Pac is gonna continue to wave his finger at him, right? It'll be like, I feel you. I feel you. And I listen to changes nowadays and I go, damn, that just made me sad. That just made me sad. I listen to Unconditional Love, Tupac, and say the neighborhood would be good if we can cut out all the busing, the licking, the weed, the cussing. Ugh. Damn, I miss that dude. You know? Not even, his lines ain't even gotta be super crazy and cold like that. The question is, will I live? No one in the world love me. Like you get lessons from Pop. You get lessons from Pop. We probably in hell already. Our dumb ass not knowing everybody kissing ass to get to heaven ain't going. You get game from Pop. I just did, and you get that from a lot of other rappers too. But if I had to like an all-time type of deal, it'll be like Pac, Scarface, Hove, Nas Up For Me Somewhere, and then like my new generation guy at 5. Can't nobody play with K-Dot, bro. Let me tell you something. When I was in high school, I was a big Wayne fan. At that time, the picks were to be a Lil Wayne fan, or you like Dipset and them. Boosie, 50 was in that conversation somewhere at some time. And out of Houston, it was like Zero or whatever. Like that was the big, if you was in high school, what faction were you in? This was like pre Young Money or whatever. And Wayne, once upon a time, was really the coldest rapper I've ever heard. Like Carter 2 to No Ceilings Wayne. That portion, couldn't nobody mess with that guy. And then I turned into a Drake fan because Wayne fell off. And I guess I was a big Drake fan because I would resonate with a lot of things that he say. Like Drake is really good at, he's another one at making you relate to his situation. But Kendrick is so cold, he made me realize Drake can't rap that well. And I love Drake, man. Love Drake. Drake is fantastic, bro. Kendrick made me realize Drake can't rap well. And to be fair, when Pimp a Butterfly came out, I wasn't in place to understand that album where I'm at now. I'm 28 years old. When I listen to that album, it's incredible what he does with it. He tells a story. It's like there's 5 arcs in that album, and and all the stories that he's telling stories with those arcs, whether it be self-worth, whether it be pride in your people, whether it be being conflicted with the hood and the new you, whether it be priorities. If you listen to Institutionalized, right, it's basically Kendrick, he's conflicted with this idea of, hey, let me take my friends out the hood, let me show them something better, let me show them a better life, let me take them to the BET Awards. But when they get there, they just want to rob all his friends. His old friends want to rob his rich friends at the BET Awards. So he's conflicted with the idea of, should I try to make them better? Should I try to expose them to different things? But if they don't want to be better, I can't make them better, And that leads into another song, You, on the album, right? Like Kendrick got to deal with being this new rap star while his friends getting killed in the hood. If you listen to Wesley's Theory or whatever, It's more so about dealing with being talented, and I'm in the record business, but I gotta find a way to not get pimped by the government and the record labels or whatever, right? It's just a lot of over how much a dollar costs, right? Like, I could treat this bum bad, but this dollar, which is nothing to me, could buy me a spot in heaven. Just themes like that. And I can listen to like Take Care, which is Drake's best album to me, and I don't get those same kind of themes. Like Kendrick is so great, I realized that Drake was terrible as a rapper. But I still listen to Drake for certain things, man. Drake is still good at what he does, but when it comes to best rapper conversation, it ain't close. Kendrick Lamar is definitely my guy, and I'm waiting on his next project. If I had to think of a rapper that's not in his 30s, man, like Jid is fantastic. JID is fantastic. I like Young Thug, honestly. If we just talking about music, I like Young Thug, but not as a lyricist or nothing like that. There's more to hip hop than lyricism, but I don't want to get too long into the hip hop conversation. But my podcast is going to be a lot of this because I love it. But yeah, man, that's all I got for you. I ain't want to hold y'all too. Well, I've been holding y'all too long. Like I'm at 40 minutes recording, so that'll probably edit down to like a 20-minute video or something like that. But this is fun, and I'll be doing a lot more stuff like this on my other channel. A part of me wants to upload this to my other channel, but it's not time yet. It's not time to roll everything out yet. But on my other channel, on my podcast, this is the kind of stuff I will be talking about. I'll be talking about gaming. I'll be talking about like music and hip hop and all that. We're gonna get into anime, fights, just all kind of little stuff that I just love so much. Nick Gasher was having woman problems, so I kind of helped him out with that. It's just a lot of stuff I can get into, man. So I appreciate y'all for listening, man. R.I.P. Black Phillip and all that good stuff. If you know, you know. Follow me on Twitter, VOCHLOMBARDI. Shouts out to my PayPal, Patreon, Cash App people. If y'all like the merch, the O-Line film shirt, you know what I'm saying? If y'all want one, that link is in my description. Like it's in there. It say get some merch, then a link. Y'all click that link and do y'all thing. And I appreciate y'all for holding me down, man. Y'all hold it down for the Doski Woski and Peasky Whiskey, man. Until next time, this was fun.